Thank you and welcome to a Mechwarrior Online Community Warfare examination. Recently, we had a roundtable discussion from community members and PGI's President Russ Bullock about the state of affairs of community warfare and what was in need of being corrected, I guess is the best way to put it. Uh, this video will highlight my thoughts on the things that maybe weren't discussed or should have been discussed in my opinion, and all these changes are focusing on using the current environment. I'm not a big proponent for making changes that the game has to introduce or takes a long time to introduce. I'm looking at the game as it is as a whole right now and what you can do to make it better in the current environment. I know everybody has great ideas on this. I read Reddit all the time and see different posts about ideas that I know would make the game more fun and sound better, but this isn't going to be one of those topics. So let's get into it. The current issues in the game, in my opinion, are the lack of focus battles, the no purpose or goal for long-term grinding, and new players versus veteran players. The lack of focus battles is more of an issue between players having almost too much choices when it comes to community warfare. I constantly log in, click on the faction tab, and go to read the faction chat to see what's going on. Where's everybody attacking? Where can I help? What's the busy queue, I guess is maybe even a better way to put it. But sometimes when you read that faction chat, you'll see loyalist groups basically asking mercs or solo players to help them achieve a goal. And in a lot of cases, you don't get positive feedback. Players are going to jump in whatever queue they can to get a game as fast as they can. That's what they want to do. So there's really a lack of focus on any kind of accomplished goal because of the queues themselves, because of the planets you can select themselves. And this really is a big thing when you talk about the 12-man groups that stomp pugs, as people say, or hold a queue hostage, or whatever your analogy for it is. Because of the idea that a 12-man group is focused and sitting in a queue, they're accomplishing something. Even if they're not the best players, they can do more because they have 12 people constantly sitting in a queue, versus loyalists right now trying to basically round up pugs and solo players to get them to help them achieve something. The big burnout, or reason I would say most people leave the game, is because of no long-term goal. There's no reason for playing CW. The big goal when I first started playing community warfare was, if we take Terra, do we win the game? Like, is that it? Is it over? And the first iteration of community warfare, the Jade Falcon group pushed all the way down, well, past Terra, and we kind of made the joke that they were delaying the game. Report them for not taking Terra and ending the game. There's no point to playing CW. What's the point of taking the planets? There's no value system to it. You need to have something that makes players want to play and grind for that amount of time. The biggest thing, in my opinion, is the new player versus veteran player experience. There's a lot going on with this that isn't discussed on Reddits or anything of that nature, forums, whatever have you. A lot of players will create alt accounts, new accounts, and jump into community warfare and just troll, basically. Just go and die, use bad builds, make fun of the teammates and say they're no good. And because of this, a lot of people have been complaining about a matchmaker system. You should have good players against bad players. You shouldn't have, you need the 12-mans against the 12-mans, things like that. I don't really think you can do that. I don't think there is a matchmaker system that you could put in place for community warfare. However, I do have a couple of suggestions, or at least one big suggestion that I think would fix what I call the most frustrating point of community warfare. So let's look at these points. The first part, the lack of focused battles, as we discussed. We highlighted the planet selection and how that has really a difficulty on loyalists to get anything achieved because mercs and solo pilots can just go where they want. My suggestion to that is use a march system. You can read about this in lore. There's examples of this on Sarna and different places in most books. An example would be the Capellan March or the Sarna March. Basically, when you think about a military, what do they give you? They give you your marching orders. If you were back in the colonial days a British soldier and you landed on a shore and they said march to Philadelphia, there's a lot of cities you can go to along the way, but you were marching towards a goal. You were ignoring those other cities to get to Philadelphia. That was your marching orders. And that again highlights what I'm talking about when I say to have a loyalist pick somewhere that they want to go or achieve, and not give anybody else basically the option to go anywhere else to stay on that target would really help improve the overall planet selection system, I guess, and reduce queues immensely so you get better focus that way. Each planet, and again, this is for loyalists really, could have a value as well. So a maybe an entry level planet is per match you get 10,000 bonus sea bills per match. Maybe a bigger planet you get more, what have you. But having that march, having that value, gives it a reason why we play it. Well, because this planet is really heavily popular, heavily resourced. It gives a value to a planet. The biggest thing about the march system, it would change the dynamic of taking planets as well. So if you take a march of 4 planets, you're basically taking a contract out for 4 days saying that we're going to take these 4 planets. So 1 day for each planet in a sense. If in 3 days you take the 4 planets, well then that march is over. The loyalists in that group can vote. So say you're Merrick and you say, hey, we've conquered a march against Lao. In 3 days we got 4 planets. Now we're gonna go and pick a new march. If in 4 days you don't complete those 4 planets, those 3 planets you have per se, say you have 3 out of the 4, and at the end of 4 days you didn't get the 4th, those 3 planets would go back to the previous owner's control. So for 3 days you were holding those planets, so you're getting the MC bonus and everything as normal that's in the gameplay, but you didn't complete your march. You ran out of resources, whatever the thing is. So those planets go back to Lao. They reset back to Lao. If you were to think about that in a sense, a lot of times now what happens is someone attacks one planet, they get it, and then they start attacking another planet, and the previous owner of that planet goes to attack the planet they just lost. So think about that as far as a focused battle goes. Now the guys that are attacking the new planet aren't getting any defenders because the only group of defenders they had are now trying to win back the planet they lost. So again, we have no focus on the planets. We have these extended queue fights where if you have a march system in place, you can have it where if you lose that planet, you can't win that planet back. You have to stop the next planet in the march. That planet's locked up, and you have to stop that next planet. This creates a more wedge attack and defense approach, and it limits the queues. It forces people into queues to make planets have values. If you're a defending faction, you're going to want to stop that march. You want to put all your resources into stopping their advancement, delaying them from getting their 4 planets or what have you, or how many planets are in that march. The biggest thing about this is loyalists choose and fight. So for example, if I'm a Steiner loyalist and we choose to take a march, the whole Steiner faction, all the group leaders, unit leaders say, let's attack Merrick. If they choose that fight, if they said, hey, we're going that march, that's the only attacking thing that all Steiner pilots will have. So if you're any kind of Steiner loyalist, the only thing you're going to have is that march of those however many planets you choose. There is no other thing. If you're a merc of Steiner, you can help the Steiner loyalists on their march, or you can go defend against clans, or whatever other defense thing you might have there. The mercs will have those freedoms, but the mercs are not getting any of the benefits that the loyalists are getting. The loyalists have an objective, they're trying to get it. The mercs already have their contracts for just fighting for or with the Steiners, or however it would be. So that's the bottom line behind that. The biggest thing that helps us improve is it creates this true faction gameplay. And when you have Merrick, Lau, and Davian players who are kind of away from, say, the clan invasion side of the map, it gives them an opportunity as well to kind of make their battle plans now versus being in the outside of a map that has no meaning to them. Because as right now, the way we have the border kind of conflicting, people are choosing say FRR, Karita, or Steiner because there's more fights, there's more battles to choose from. If everybody only can choose one march, if every faction or clan, whatever, can only choose one march, then really you have the choice to choose any one of the 7 or 8 factions in the group because they're all going to have the same thing. Everybody's going to have one march to go on or one objective to complete in a sense. So what does a march look like? To the left, you'll see a neutral base star map in a sense. It's the middle of the homogeny, Terra, whatever, and brown. And then, of course, you see the purple Merrick, Steiner blue, Karita red, Davian yellow, and a little bit of Lao green there. When you look at these big space areas, big group of blue, big group of yellow, whatever, what really isn't highlighted is inside of those big areas are little providences or groupings of planets, and those grouping of planets are very similar to provinces in Canada or states in the United States. So to look to the right here and see the Canadian map, if you were to say Canada was like Steiner, for instance, and I said we're going to attack Steiner, we're going to attack Canada, whatever, I would choose a march. So let's say I choose a very blatant one, say Manitoba. I'm going to attack Manitoba. So that's my march. Well, inside of Manitoba, you can see there's 4 cities and Winnipeg, the capital city. So there's 5 points of conflict or 5 points of interest. Or if it was a Steiner space, it'd be 5 planets that I'm trying to capture. That's my march. That's what we're objectively doing. So we're saying Manitoba march. That's where we're going. So I would get my first city or first planet, however it is. And if you take that planet, that's your planet for the next 5 days or whatever of that march. You're trying to get that. If I win, and say in 4 days I get those 5 cities, I then can choose alternate marches from Manitoba, which way I want to go, left, right, north, whatever have you. I'm locked into that march. I'm locked into that campaign, and that's the key thing about it. Again, on the current map inside the game, we don't really see these marches or these provinces or whatever, but in lore and books and other things like that, these marches are very clear, as the example to the left here shows you. How a march example would look on our current map, this is showing Merrick attacking Lao or whatever. You might highlight the area, as I have here, in red, or come up with another faction idea for the gameplay idea. But basically, a commander or unit would see that, hey, this march consists of these many planets. And then they would select that march, or how, whatever march they want to go with. And they would explain to them, hey, 5 planets, you have 5 days to capture these 5 planets. That's your resources, that's your march, or whatever like that. It's very straightforward. And again, if they choose that or accept that, that's the only march they can make. Everybody only gets one march to make. The big hidden thing to this is the value to the planets. Now again, this is not solo or mercenaries or what have you. This is only for loyalist players. So all the loyalist players have a value to these planets. Now a lot of people sit there and say, well, why even attack the capital planet, or why even try and make it? There's no value to it. Nobody cares. There's no point to push into another person's territory. Well, if you have a march system, you then can introduce planet values. So maybe some planets on the outside inner rim, people don't live there. They're conflict areas, so they're low populated, low resources, what have you. So those planets maybe are only 10,000 C-bills per match. Well, maybe as you move to the inner space of a group, say moving into Lao space, whatever, some of those planets are now 25,000 C-bills per match. So I have a battle, I get a $25,000 C-bill bonus for attacking that planet, and then maybe a capital planet is 50,000 or 100,000. The numbers. The idea though is to make it exponentially worthwhile to attack bigger planets, to go after objective planets, and again, because mercenaries already have a good value system in fighting or helping different factions in the group in the game, if you were to add this to the loyalist side, it would make more people want to be a loyalist because there's a bonus C-bill thing that makes it worth fighting for that unit. So the big question is, why even use a march system? We already have a queue system. Why do it? Well, one of the big things that was discussed in the recent roundtable thing was the limiting of Q is how to reduce the buckets. If I'm, say, Davian and I choose to attack Karita, that's my Q. As a faction, we are deciding to go to war with Karita. So unless somebody else attacks me, unless Lao attacks me or Karita attacks us back or whatever have you, there's only one Q. There's only one objective for everybody in the Davian space. Now, if somebody else wants to attack me, maybe I have two. But again, that's my march. My march is to go towards Karita. There is no defend against clans. There is no nothing like that. Mercenaries can defend against clans. They can choose to defend against clans. But if you're in a loyalist faction and your group says we want to attack somebody, that's your cue. That's all you got. And again, we're looking for focused battles here. That's what we need. We need that combined group. We need that faction play. If you look at the big 12-man groups that run, that's what they do. They incorporate this tactic. They pick one planet, one queue, and they dominate it. They isolate it. And the March system basically forces players to use that tactic. And in turn, you should get better matches even with the limited queues. So the March system has a lot of positives to it, and in my opinion, very few drawbacks. The bigger question here would be, well, okay, you say we all get one march. Well, what if I'm Davian and I want to attack a clan? And now I can't defend against clans. No, I have to pick a march. Well, you can decide as Davian to say, we're not going to go after Karita or Lao or whatever have you. We're going to go after the clan. So in a jump jet, jump space type idea, in this example, we're showing how maybe as Davian commanders, they say, hey, we noticed that Jade Falcon has taken over this march from Steiner. Let's take it. Let's fight for it. So the Davian commanders will choose that's their march. They're going to jump through Karita space to attack the Jade Falcon. So that's your march. That's where you're going. And again, the thing that's interesting about the march system is, in this example, if Davian is attacking Pike first, if that's their first planet that they're going after, the Jade Falcon could be going after, say, Lions or something inside Steiner. They could have a whole different march that they're trying to work on. So as a Jade Falcon loyalist or whatever have you, you'll have only Lions as your attack queue, and then you'll have Pike as your defend queue. And Davian space will only have that Pike queue. That's it. That's the one planet that everybody's trying to get in that attack phase or whatever have you. So there is an idea to defend or attack against clans, and again, think about it like this: what happens if Davian takes that march and now that's yellow, and Steiner says, "Hey, we want that back." Well, now Steiner will have to choose that march to attack Davian to take it back. The whole complexity and greed and idea of the inner house war conflict type thing comes to fruition when you have this march system in play. The second point I want to talk about that wasn't used, and this goes back to our no purpose or goal for long-term grinding, is to have a season concept. So every season could be 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, whatever PGI decides. But the bottom line is a lot of people want Innersphere versus Innersphere, or clan versus clan, house wars and blood trials, all these kind of things. You can't really have that with the map just defaulted the way it is. And a lot of people, when we first started playing this, the Battle of Tukiad goes down as one of the most horrendous events for a lot of people because of the grind and everything like that. But a lot of people played it. So somewhere in that mid-season, again, if it's 6 months, maybe 3 months in, you have the clan invasion, the Battle of Tukia, this immersion of clan coming into the Innersphere. That's a big draw for people to want to play, right? But the biggest thing, the reason why seasons need to be here more than anything, is for the end of season, right? So you have this end of season, the map resets, and you give out maybe bonuses to the top units. Maybe the best unit for Jade Falcon, or the best unit for Karita, or best unit for Lao, whatever have you. Best mercenary unit, they get a cockpit item, choice of a mech, maybe a specialty, camo, whatever have you. A reason to want to play to achieve something. The season thing is very, very important, because I feel like the burnout in community warfare is solely based on the idea of I'm not playing for anything. There's no reason to be playing this game. It's just shooting up mechs. That's it. The season thing would actually fix that in more ways than one. We'll get more into that. So to look at what the map would look like in the general terms, the inner sphere in the beginning of a season would, again, this map's missing FRR, but basically in a general sense would have just the houses in the current map that we have. And it, just for that first half of the season, they would kind of fight each other. And I know people are sitting there going, okay, well, that's great, but where would the clans be then, right? If you look north of the current map that we have in game, there's grayed out planets up there. Those grayed out planets are technically the clans. That's where they come from. That's the clan space. So in the beginning of a season, you can maybe have 3 or 4 of these planets each for the 4 clan groups up there, and have those clan groups kind of vying against each other. Now, of course, you're going to sit there and say, well, that's small, it's easy to conquer, all this thing. Maybe it's not a March system up there. Maybe it's a sole 1 planet per thing or whatever. Or, maybe there's a bonus for winning just this as a blood right or blood trial thing or blood name thing. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do with it. But the bottom line is again, if there's a season involved, they're building stats for the season up there. They're becoming a top unit for the season. And then in the mid-season point, they're going to invade. They're going to come down and invade, and then they'll be able to use the March system and take territories and do all that other kind of stuff. The point I'm trying to make is there are planets, there are systems in place to allow us to have this season mentality. It's already in the game. The planet's already there. The map's already there. The premise is easy to introduce and use, and that's the bottom line behind it, is that these things are in the game right now, and we just need a little bit of tweaking to bring them in and add a lot of value to the grind that you have every day. The third point I want to talk about, and to me this is the most important part, to be honest with you. Again, I talked about in the beginning how new players come in, or players create alt accounts and basically wreck community warfare games. You can't make a matchmaker system for CW. It's just not possible to make a matchmaker system. It doesn't work. The tier system we have in place now isn't perfect. However, in the lore of BattleTech, there are pirates. The pirate periphery is a thing that exists in lore. If we were to create a role called pirate and make it where new players start, this would eliminate some of the most frustrating points for veteran players in the game. If you have a new player who comes in and can only be a pirate, that's where he starts off at, he's not then queuing with the mercs and loyalists and stuff like that. So you almost create your own little matchmaker system inside the role itself. The key feature here, the thing that makes this work, is that after 100 wins, and I want to emphasize that 100 wins, not 100 games, because a lot of players can just load in, AFK, disconnect, whatever, go play a couple quick plays, wait for their mech to come out of that game, and then reload again. 100 wins forces you to try and play with the team and win and actually be productive. Maybe it's 75 wins, maybe it's 50. I mean, that's debatable, but wins is the determining factor here. But anyways, it would unlock the player's ability to select the role as being a merc or a loyalist. And maybe they say, no, I like the pirate role, I'm just going to stay there. Whatever, that's fine, that's great. The key thing about it, though, is that pirates only play with pirates. They only queue up with other pirates. That's it. So mercs and loyalists, do not ever see them. They're not there like that. They're not in the house or faction or clan or whatever have you. The biggest point to make when you look at, okay, well, how do the queue things work? Because we're trying to limit queues again, right? Pirates do not defend planets, just like houses can't attack their planets. They'll never come up. You can't march on a pirate periphery. It's the outside space. It doesn't matter. The only thing they ever do is attack. So technically, as a pirate, you only see one queue. So if you're a new player, this limits the confusion, right? You only have one thing to go after. But it introduces you to the dynamics. It introduces you to the tools of faction warfare. It shows you, okay, I got to select a planet. I got to pick, make a drop deck, all that kind of stuff. Basically, though, because they're only attacking one planet, you need to add a little diversity to it. So the planets they attack are on the edge of the map where the periphery exists. So during each attack phase, every pirate player will get a vote to show them, you know, there's one planet in Steiner space, one planet in Merrick space, one planet in Davian space, etc., all the way around. Which planet do you want to attack? Every pirate will vote, every pirate player will vote on one planet, and the winning planet is what all the pirates will attack on the next attack phase. Okay? They can win that attack phase, and if they win that planet, if they hold that planet, for when they win it, everybody gets one MC. All the pirates get one MC. And I know you sit there and say, one MC, that's, you're not trying to make this where veteran players would want to play it. You're trying to show new players the tools of the game, the way the game plays, the way the game functions. And the way the game functions when you're a Merc or Loyalist, if you win a planet, you get, 15 MC or 25 MC, whatever, that the group leader breaks up among his players. It's hard to do that with pirates, so you just make it where they, pirates winning get one MC, whatever, just to show it, just to say, hey, if I play this, I can get MC, great. At the end of the next attack phase, that planet will go back to whoever's it is. Because again, pirates can't defend planets, they can't hold planets. The most important part about this is that the new players are learning how to make a drop deck, how to attack a planet, how to go through the process that most loyalists see all the time on a lower level. It's a scaling, leveling system for new players. The only thing that kind of could make this a little tricky is the idea of, as a new player coming in, maybe you can only afford a Jenner, and then maybe you do an event and you win, say, a Timberwolf. Well, now you have a bunch of different mechs, things of that nature. Because in lore, pirates are scavengers of technology. They scavenge off the battlefield and stuff like that. This could particularly be the one role where maybe they could have a mixed drop deck. Maybe they can bring IS and clan mechs. Or, maybe in the beginning of a season, as we first said, because they're only playing against house factions or groups or whatever it is, maybe they only use interspheres. But once the clan invasion comes, they can start using mixed drop decks, or however you want to work that out. I mean, those are things you can discuss or kind of say, does it work or doesn't work or whatever. But the major thing about this is you need this role to really create a way for new players to enter the game. Because as of right now, when a new player comes in and he's using all trial mechs and he performs really bad, and you see some veteran player kind of call him a noob, or he's bad, or go play quick play, get out of here, it turns people off to the game mode. With this, and being the fact that only pirates are going to play with pirates, you're only playing with other guys that have trial mechs with you. So it's not like anybody in there is going to be beating each other up. They're going to try their best to win. It'll be hard, it'll be challenging, yes, but the bottom line is the players that they're playing with are much more benign to say, hey, let's help each other, let's talk to each other, let's work with each other. It creates a good environment for new players. So I think the pirate role is the most important thing. A lot of people will say, okay, well, where do these pirates exist? I don't see them on the current map. Well, actually, if you look to the left here, this is a space map from BattleTech lore, and you'll see in the purple Merrick and the dark green Lao, and then to the bottom part there in that light green, Canopus is actually there. That's actually the pirate periphery. That's the Magistrate of Canopus. In the right picture, you'll see our actual in-game map that shows Merrick and Lao, and then some grayed out planets. The periphery, the pirate periphery, actually does exist in the game. It's in there. We just don't utilize it. No one really talks about it, cares about it. There's no point to it, really. Again, the pirate role will now give value, make those planets have some kind of validity or meaning to them. Just to highlight a little bit better of that argument, if you look at this map here, you'll see the Steiner, the Krita, all the big things, even the clan invasion things coming in. On the outside of the map, though, the Rim territories, Lothan League, Magic Canopus, as we discussed before, basically all around the map are these peripheries, these pirate peripheries. So when we say that pirate players will be able to vote on any planet, one planet per section, and then attack those planets, it's in realistic kind of design to say that that's possible because of the pirate peripheries that stay on the outside of the map. So the lore works, the dynamics in the game work. There's a way to explain it. It makes sense, they pirate jump around the edge of the map and attack planets on the outside edges. It feeds into a lot of good things, and again, it creates a good place for new players. So in conclusion, the March system limits buckets. Russ Bullock's big thing that he talked about during the round table was, how do we reduce buckets? How do we reduce buckets? The March system reduces those buckets. It's the best way to focus down and limit the queues that we have. The season system creates value to the grind. No doubt about it. People get burned out in this game. If you have any other game that you want to look to, League of Legends, for instance, they have a tier system, bronze, silver, gold, whatever. I want to climb the master or whatever. People play that all year long to climb that ladder, to climb that tier, to be of a value. If we have a season system in place that says, hey, at the end of the season, you're going to get rewarded for something, for being in there, it creates value to that grind. It prevents the burnout. The pirate role allows an entry point for new players. Cannot stress this enough. That in its own self is one of the biggest things that needs to happen. You need to have the entry level. You need to have that place for new players to start and have veteran players be less frustrated with people that don't know what's going on in the game. Basically, that's all I have. That's the majority of what I wanted to discuss. Again, none of these ideas are perfect by any means, but in my opinion, these 3 sections are the first things that should be introduced before anything else, so that we can actually have a playtest environment that fits the needs of new players and veteran players while focusing on true faction or focused warfare. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the battlefield.